Welcome back, crew, to Boats vs. Haulover, where Man and Machine step in the ring and try to battle with Haulover Inlet down here in Miami, Florida. And as you can tell from these images, a little bit of a rough day, probably going to give some caps some trouble. Let's see how they fare. And this is going to bring us to the first round of our competition, where the boats are going to toss an AXOPAR in the ring to try and do battle with Haulover and see if the boats can take the early victory in round one. Let's go. And our AXOPAR is working its way out. Cab looks pretty good right now. He's actually got the boat up on plane, which is what you want to do with these AXOPARs. The last thing you want to do is exactly what we're seeing here, which is slow down. Let this boat do the work. The second he slowed down right there, he winds up catching a wave right over the top of the bow. These AXOPARs really want to be up on plane with the throttle down and going and blast their way right through the waves. That's why the whole back gunnel on the stern of the vessel is gone. They leave it open by design in the AXOPAR, so if water even gets in it, it can get out extremely quickly, but that's because they're designed for you to have that throttle opened up and go ahead and let this thing eat. Now, I will give Captain a little credit. It is a rough day, and it can be intimidating, which causes people to back off on the throttle. What's always interesting is people see these images, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. Well, it's because we're filming from higher up down into the water. But when you get closer to a ground eye view, as we see in these images here of the AXOPAR going out, you can really see exactly how bad it is. Waves are one of those things, for whatever reason, they just don't transit well onto camera. I promise you, the waves you see in video images are significantly bigger than they appear on the camera. I do Bahamas trips all the time, and anytime it's rough, I'm like, man, we got some amazing footage, and then you get back to shore and review that footage, and it's nowhere near as good as what you thought it was. But our crew winds up taking a pounding here as we go. And speaking of Bahamas trips, our annual Bahamas trip's coming up. Stay to the end if you're interested in that, and I'll let you know the information on that, because we'd love to have you join us as we take vessels from Fort Lauderdale over to the Bahamas for a long weekend trip coming up in June. But our captain, as we see in the images on the replay here, he kind of rolls out, slow rolls it, winds up taking some water over the bow. Unfortunately for our guy, this is going to wind up being a loss, because he's even going to wind up pulling the infamous Haulover U-turn here. But again, I still think this was a captain error. This AXOPAR, if you want to blast your way out of the inlet, get it just barely up on plane, let that sharp bow entry eat, and get the job done. I mean, it's a wave-piercing bow for a reason. Now, unfortunately for the AXOPAR, having a wave-piercing bow is a disadvantage in Boats vs. Haulover, because a lot of times if it pierces a wave, it's actually going to take the stuffing, which unfortunately is an automatic loss. But when you go slow like this, they took the loss anyway. Haulover's up 1-0. But the boats got a surprise in store, as they're gonna send a Haulover killer, a Freeman, into the ring here in the second round to do what it's gotta do to get them on the board. And here we go, our crew's making their way out. This vessel, of course, is on plane, as again, that's what this boat wants to do. Let it ride, get her up on plane, and let this boat eat these big waves up and spin them out. And this crew looks pretty solid. They do back off the throttle just a little bit right there. But again, on a catamaran, it still wants to be up on plane, and they're keeping it there and letting the boat roll. When you see these images again, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's a little rough, but nothing crazy. But we're going to switch back over one more time to the ground and pound camera right here, where you can see it from a closer angle on the water, and you really can see from this image how much rougher it really looks than that higher image we get from over on the jetty. Our crew makes it out, and this Freeman's easily going to take a win for the boats. Well, I probably shouldn't say easily, because it is a rough day, and this crew did battle their way out. But again, it is a win, and that's going to bring us back to a 1-1 tie as we move into the third round of our competition. And here in the third round, the boats are going to send a Sea Hunter in the ring to try and do battle with Haulover. Let's see how our captain fares, if he can keep the momentum going for the boats. Our cap's got this one up on plane. He is going to try and blast his way right out of Haulover. Unfortunately, he's choosing to go down the middle, which is going to be the rougher path. And man, the anchor locker winds up popping open as he's trying to pound his way through the surf here at Haulover. And it's only going to get a little worse for him, because the further he goes out, he's going to roll into those rollers that are sitting just on the outside of the mouth of the inlet. And here we go, Cap's decided to slow it down, go up and assess the situation and try and get the hatch closed. This one's always risky, especially in heavy seas. When you come back off a throttle like this and you're just cruising in an idle, it definitely makes it a lot easier for you to wind up taking some water over the bow. But fortunately, he's in a big boat. This Sea Hunter's got a massive bow and really high freeboard, so he's okay there. But I am going to go ahead and give Haulover the win on this one. Even though he went blasting his way out, Haulover knocks that hatch open, causes him to stop, completely knocks him off his game. So unfortunately for him, it's going to be a loss for the boats, even though it was a pretty impressive performance up until that point. And that's going to bring us to the fourth round of our contest. Haulover's holding a 2-1 lead over the boats, and the boats are going to bring a contender into the ring to try and see if it can get them back on the board and back into the competition. And here we go, our crew is making their way out, and of course we're at the ground and pound camera to give you the best angle of what it really looks like as they're trying to make their way out. This crew's hugging the south side of the inlet, which is a good plan. Again, I don't recommend going down the middle, and they're going to go ahead and cut through to the north, skip the rollers at the end. Great situation and planning again by our captain. This crew's going to make it out and take a win for the boats here in the fourth round. And that's going to bring us back to a 2-2 tie as we move into the fifth and final round of our contest. And here in the fifth round, we're actually going to have a redemption round as our Sea Hunter's coming back into Haulover. Let's see if he does better this time than he did on his way out. And right now he looks pretty good. A heavy following sea. He has the boat up on plane, throttles pinned, and he's trying to work his way back in. He's got the boat up on top of the water, and things look pretty solid for him, and it looks like he's gonna wind up taking a win for the boats as he blasts his way into the inlet, and the boats will take the win in this episode. Thanks for watching, crew. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Boats vs. Haulover. If you did, please check out our other content. We have Wavy Boats, who does a bunch of great things down at the inlets. My channel, Broncos Guru, do some great comedy boating videos there as well. And of course, we got the Miami Boat Ramps channel that focuses on all the hilarity that happens at the boat ramps in South Florida. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. And for those of you who hung out to hear about our annual Bahamas trip, we do it every single year, and every year we invite you guys to join us. We take boats leaving out of Fort Lauderdale, typically going on a long weekend adventure over to Bimini in the Bahamas, and we're doing it again this year. Last year we brought 30 boats with us, hoping to do the same. This year is going to be June 13th to the 16th. We're going to start out of Fort Lauderdale, leaving early in the morning and heading to Bimini for that long weekend and returning on Sunday the 16th. If you're interested in joining and bringing your vessel to the Bahamas with us, really simple. All you have to do, go to Bahamas.com, click on the boating tab, and there you're going to find information about the Bahamas flings, as we're doing this one in collaboration with the Bahamas Tourism Ministry. And of course, we'll be doing that Bimini fling that's listed on their website, and you can sign up there the June 13th to 16th one. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the Bahamas.